Funny things that we can only regret. What's there to regret when we've been completely deceived? What's there to regret when our pockets are full of holes? What is there to regret when the people have been robbed? No one owns any land anymore. Do you know that there is no more private ownership of land? Did you know that? Do you think you have private property that you bought it? No, there are already laws now. Find out for yourselves, friends. I'm not one of the lawmakers. I know that there is a law that has never recognized private property. At some point they fooled us, but private property isn't about those who own their small plot of land. That's not what it's about. When things in the country get really bad, when everything is falling apart at the seams and collapsing, and war is just around the corner, and hunger is just around the corner, and the most unexpected things are about to happen to the people, things that will make them feel almost like they're in a gulag in their own country, then, of course, it's only natural that they start banning things, start talking about things no one would have ever even thought of before. Thinking will become dangerous. In fact, those who don't think at all will be honored. Those who just mindlessly repeat the same thing after any leader, like zombies. Today the leader says one thing, tomorrow another, and the zombies will just keep repeating it. Just look at many bloggers who, today they host their own programs. First one pipe, then a pipe, then they take another one and blow another pipe because their leader changed tactics. What happened between us? They banned YouTube, the internet, or some other platforms. And today Volodin banned deputies from publicly discussing it. An unpleasant topic. Voila. What will happen to the deputies? We also don't know how they will behave. What is this all about anyway? As of today, there will be deputies. Who is Volodin, really? Oh, friends, if you break all this down, it becomes scary to live. State Duma deputies should not bring up for open discussion their own initiatives, including those concerning sensitive topics. This was stated on Wednesday during the closed to media part of the plenary session by the Speaker of the lower house of the Russian Parliament, Vyacheslav Volodin. We need to find ways to discuss the most pressing and sometimes unpleasant topics, understanding that this is necessary. And to do this in such a closed format if we want to achieve a solution and not something else. Some other results. In other words, if you want to achieve a solution, then it has to be in a closed format. And never discuss it with anyone. Discuss it with whom? With Volodin? And tomorrow he'll say, so that's what's on your mind. And that you should be sent back to 1937. He added, it is essential that elected parliamentarians should only bring their legislative initiatives in the form of formal draft laws, after such extensive and thorough public discussion has taken place. So first, there are no public discussions. Then you can discuss it with someone. Yes, probably arrange a little chat among yourselves, and only after that submit it. It's unclear. Should I say he's a smart guy? My friends, I am afraid I cannot tell you anything at all about that matter. I think you understand yourselves what intelligence means in the State Duma. There, you're either cunning or you're helping someone launder money. All this for whom? For the governor. Who else does a parliamentarian help launder money for? China has started to reduce trade with Russia. That's also a bad sign. In 2025, for the first time in 5 years, China reduced its trade volume with Russia. The mutual trade turnover, which had soared by dozens of percent after the start of the war in Ukraine and the isolation of the Russian Federation, its share in Western markets decreased by 6.5% in a year. Detailed customs statistics are currently available only for January through November. And they show that Beijing has reduced imports of almost all types of natural resources from Russia. In monetary terms, oil purchases fell by 20%. The flow of Chinese goods to the Russian Federation has decreased primarily due to automobiles, experts point out. And here it gets interesting, as the experts from the Gaidar Institute suggest. But as Gaidar was, so are the experts. I don't know the experts, but we all know Gaidar well. A lot of smart words, complicated sentences, but in the end, zero. In the economy, you see, it's like the saying goes, the emperor has no clothes. You should never, or rather, you shouldn't be afraid to admit that you don't understand this economist. Don't understand. Maybe your neighbor doesn't understand either. Who doesn't understand? Maybe your coworker doesn't understand either. Well, then it means that person is just beyond understanding. The whole system of national unity. So why is he needed at all? And Gaidar was needed for a short period, but then, when he was no longer needed, he died quickly. Well, of course, probably as a result of some kind of heart issue or something else. Yes, it all happens quickly when a person is no longer needed and when they get in the way. He was needed at some stage to confuse people with these complex sentences and words about nothing. He talked about nothing. He spoke simply in some kind of academic style for the people, for the population, so that people would definitely not understand anything. And when the people didn't understand anything, that's when the reforms hit, so that all the people were left with was nothing remained. The people became poor. Wherever you turned, there was a hole here, a hole there. As a result, the people are poor. So much for Gaidar's reforms. They were made that way on purpose, so that people wouldn't understand anything while they were being swindled. And once they've been swindled, what's left to take from them? And Gaidar died. By the way, very convenient, isn't it? This, friends, is a common thing. Gaidar death. Who else do we have? Nemtsov. So all of this is just laughable stuff. We can only regret. But what's there to regret when you've been completely deceived? What's there to regret when your pockets are empty? What's there to regret when the people have been robbed? No one has any land. Do you know that there's no more private ownership of land? Did you know that? You think you have private property that you bought it? No. There are already laws? Find out for yourselves, friends. I'm not one of those lawmakers. I know there's a law that has never recognized private property. At some point, they just messed with our heads. But private property isn't for those who own their little plot of land. Not for them, but for others. And who are these others? Those who are up there at the top. They've handed over their huge chunk, say, half of Russia, right? They've given it to be managed. And they still have to make money off of it. You pay land tax, don't you? Otherwise, why would you pay land tax if the land isn't yours? Then it makes sense, right? Is everything clear? So in that case, the owner of the land would lose out on extra land taxes. I would have lost extra money. And so money out of thin air. He seemed to have attributed it to you. The land is registered to you. You are obliged to pay. But yes, it is such nonsense. I am Tanya Karatsuba Sidi Burhan, January 14th, 2026.